Gwen, I feel like I want to grow, but I'm still holding on to a lot of things that happened in my past. Do I need to deal with those before I can move forward?
Well, there was a time when I might have answered differently. A lot of therapy and healing was based in finding those old wounds and healing them and healing the inner child. And I still think sometimes we have to do work to heal the inner child. But as we move into the next level and connect almost what I call with the quantum field, I see that the old way of thinking is equivalent to the old Newtonian physics, and the new way is like quantum physics. So the analogy I use is the old way with our old patterns. It's like the mind is like a flat box and it's a maze. And we feel like maybe we want to get out of it, but we keep going down the same pathways and running into the same walls. And as long as we're in that maze, we're really stuck. And another way I describe it, it's like if you have a computer and it's not connected to the internet, you can only work with the patterns that are there. So if we're focusing on our past and the ego issues, we're not bringing anything new to the situation, so we go over and over and we will repeat the same patterns, get into relationships with the same types of people, and wonder, why can't I get out of this? So if we take the computer analogy, if we connect to the internet, we have access to infinite resources. So when we can get out of our ego mind and quiet the mind and connect with the quantum field, of which we are an integrated part, we're not separate from that, then we can transcend and get out of the maze and into amazing, because we are limited by our past beliefs, our past experiences. We define ourselves according to that. And that's not who we are. That's where we've been. So if you like to travel and you want to go to a new country, before you go, do you have to review all your photographs of all the other places that you have been? Or do you leave that behind with an open mind, looking forward to what new things are going to come your way?
Tell me more, Gwen, about how we do that.
Okay, if we go back to the computer analogy, if you want to install a new program on your computer, you must disable the old one. And I have many clients and readers contact me and saying, I understand, I know what I have to do, I know where I have to be, but I just can't get there. And that's because their old program is still running. So how do we disconnect our old program? Well, number one, become aware of it. What are the things that I tell myself? I'm not good enough, it's never going to happen. So once we become aware of the beliefs that are keeping us in that maze, we begin to practice thought stopping. Like, I'm not going to continue to brainwash myself with my own negative messages. We can do that by just being aware of it and stopping it. We can be aware of it by doing more meditation where we just quiet the mind. We can do it by recognizing the negative picture and immediately replacing it with a positive one. Because what we think is what we are creating in our reality. So when someone has a history of scarcity, and so they're asking and asking and asking for abundance, the message they're putting out there is, I don't have abundance. I don't have abundance. And so what they create is more and more non-abundance. When we picture and see that we already have everything that we need, then that's what we begin to create. So as long as we're running the old programs, we are going to keep creating more of the same. And all of my clients will say, well, that's so hard. How do you not think? Well, it does take practice. It does take practice, and it takes commitment. But in Course in Miracles, they say a miracle of the shift in perception. It can happen in an instant. And so if you were eating something and you realized that it was causing allergic reaction in you, and you stopped eating that and you felt so much better. Well, it's the same thing if we're feeding ourselves limiting thoughts. We can just stop it. We have to just stop it. One of my clients with severe PTSD, who's held on to his old story for 30 years, said to me recently, it's like I'm staring at a ball of string and I just can't see through it. And I said, well, you have 3 choices. You can keep staring at it, hoping that somehow you might see through it. You can spend years trying to untangle it, or you could just drop it. And that's the choice that we all have.
So to kind of take the maze metaphor, if you think in the ancient myth of it, where it's kind of dark and there's minotaurs in there, scary things that can harm you if you go around the corner and there's a dead end and there is this minotaur there. This sounds like it's sort of like blowing the lid off of that, and it's
absolutely
not that way.
Absolutely, because the maze is dark and it's constrictive. When you move out of that maze and into amazing, there are no limits, there are no boundaries, there's no struggle, there's no effort. We're just in that dynamic flow, and it moves by itself.
And you controlling your thoughts, not the thoughts controlling you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Gwen.
My pleasure.